Hello and welcome back to another Python tutorial. In today's video, we are going to continue our discussion with the SEC web scraping. In the previous videos, we talked about a very specific type of search. So these were the filing searches. So if you wanted to find any of the filings for a given day, we saw how to, get that information. We saw how we could get the archive information for a given company and all the filings that took place during a certain time period. And then we saw how to parse 10K for at least the tables. And then naturally, we're going to start discussing how we can get the text as well. But before we get to that section, I do want to cover one particular topic that might be useful for people who I would say are trying to do a very specific search. So this is somebody who's going to be going and saying, hey, I have a very particular company that I'm looking for. I have very particular forms that I'm looking for, and they have to exist in a certain time frame, for example. So we're going to be seeing how to automate that process of searching for those filings and then being able to pull the necessary information from the return data set that we get sent back. Okay, so the first thing that this kind of falls under is we do call it, well, I guess it's more in a sense. It's basically leveraging EDGAR, so the database archive that we're used to working with, but this is now what we're going to be calling a company search. And so I actually provide a link for everyone where if they want to go to the kind of the actual search menu for this, it's just sec.gov/EDGAR, search EDGAR, and then company search. And then if you click this link, it will take you here. And this is how we do a company search. And there's really kind of two different ways of doing it. So the first way is we could put in, for example, like Goldman Sachs, we could put in Nike, we could put in Google, whatever it might be, and we can search by a particular name. And sometimes we have to be a little bit careful with this because if we search by name, we can actually have multiple entities that have a similar name. And so if that's the situation, then what comes back to us is a table with a CIK number. So this is kind of the unique identifier that the EDGAR system uses to kind of organize the information. And then we get the company and then the state and country if applicable. So that's a very broad search. If we wanted to do a very specific search and we had the company in mind, we could put in a CIK number, which would then take us to all the filings that existed for that particular CIK number. And then if you click here for more options and you decide to search by name, for example, then you can say starts with, contains, file number, a state, country, standard industry classification. So if you want to look for a particular company that exists in a certain industry, we can do that. And then we also get an ownerships forms option. So these are kind of the two different ways we can search for a company. One is a more broad way where we just put in a particular company name and then hope there's not too many companies that are public who have filings in EDGAR. Or we can do a very specific search, which allows us to put in either a ticker symbol or a CIK number that allows us to get that information for us. And so this is all great. What I'm going to be showing you is that if we went to actually one of these CIK number results, we get information like this. And so, well, you'll see right here that this is a CIK number, and then you'll get a list of all the filings, the formats. We get like documents, interactive data, description, filing date, a lot of good information here that if we can scrape it, we can actually get links to other archives or individual files themselves. And so what we're going to be seeing is that we can recreate these URLs to go and actually get the information that we want. So that's all we're going to be doing. It's very similar to if we were working with an API. We have some kind of endpoint and we pass through a list of parameters to go and get that particular information. Unfortunately, at least from what I can tell, I cannot find any documentation that says how to construct these URLs. So I played around with it as much as I could, and I tried to get at least what I thought was at least some kind of a comprehensive list of what the parameters are and then what kind of their values should be and whether they're optional or required. So I tried to do my best to document that for everybody, but I can't promise 100% that I captured everything because unfortunately, from what I can tell, there is no documentation on how to build these URLs. And so now that you kind of understand that all we're going to be doing is creating these URLs, we're going to be leveraging the request library to pass through a dictionary of the parameters. We're going to pass through the endpoint, and then it's going to take us to each one of these pages, from at which point we can actually parse the HTML content. And all we're really going to be doing is we're just going to be trying to get this little table object right here, and we're just going to loop through the individual rows in this information. And then we're also going to see we can actually make a very specific type of request that will give us an XML output. And so I'm going to usually encourage people to do the XML output because it does seem to be the most user-friendly, but I will let you know you can use the HTML version if you so choose. There's nothing technically stopping you from doing that. So with that being said, let's get started. So I'm going to go back to my workbook. The first thing that I need to do is I need to import my libraries. So I'm going to be importing the request library. We're going to be importing, actually we don't need pandas in this one. And then we're going to be importing beautiful soup. So beautiful soup we're going to be using to parse, and then request to go and actually make the request to the particular URLs. And then also we just get some methods and properties that allow us to, just pass through information relatively easily. And so really I kind of define the first section as building our search. So we're kind of defining the parameters of our search. What I put here is a list of the parameters that I could find that you can pass through for a particular URL. So all we're doing is we're taking this endpoint right here, so the browse EDGAR endpoint, that's what we'll just call it at this point, and we got some parameters that we can play with. The first one is action, so we can set this equal to get company. This is just the default one that it seems to appear. I haven't seen any other value that this takes on. We also do have a CIK number, so if you want to do a CIK search, you do have to pass this through, or else it's going to do a different type of search. We have a type, so this is optional, so this is where we can filter by 10K filings, 10Q filings, whatever type of form we want. We would set the type parameter to filter the forms. We have date B, which stands before a given date, and that goes in the format of year, year, month, month, day, day, and so it will return any filings that existed before that date. And then we have the owner option, so this is set to exclude by default, but we can do include and only, and so this is just like ownership type. And then we have start. This is again optional, so this really comes in handy if you have a lot of results, and we're going to see how we can leverage this parameter to do pagination. So if there's 100 results or 150 results, we would have to make two separate requests to get all the information. So we'll see how the start parameter plays its role in that. And then we have output, which we'll see later, but if we set the output parameter, we can actually get an XML version of the data back, which is a little bit easier to parse from my experience, just because HTML, I mean, it worked fine. There wasn't really any big hiccups, but I just tend to like XML. I think it's a little bit more structured than the HTML code. And then we have count. So this is the number of items that we want sent back to us. You can set a max of 100, but by default, I believe it's 40, at least kind of from what I was playing around with. And so what we're going to do is we've defined our endpoint right here, which is just simply the sec.gov, CGI bin, and then browse EDGAR. And then we're going to define a new variable. It's going to be called parameter dictionary. And then this is going to take basically our parameters payload that we're going to pass through. And so the first one that we're going to do is we're going to set action equal to get company. And then from here, we're going to set the CIK number equal to 1265107. This is monotronic, if I remember correctly. And then we're going to say, hey, we only want the 10Ks. So we'll just pass through that. And then we're going to say date before. In this example, we can just say, hey, we want anything that is before January 1st. We can do owner. We'll just keep that to the default value, which is, I think this is exclude, if I remember. Yeah, exclude. And then from here, oh, I forgot my comma. And then from here, we'll define our start. Now, I'm not going to set that one, so we'll just put that equal to blank. Or you could just completely leave it out of the dictionary. It's really up to you how you want to do it. I like to keep it in, so I just remind myself that I set the parameter in case I'm looking back at it. And then output, we'll keep it the standard HTML at this point. And then we'll define our final one, which is, hey, return up to 100. So if there's 100, return the full 100. And then I'll close off my little dictionary, and then we'll make our request. And so we'll store our content that's sent back to us in our response variable, like we've seen in other videos. We'll call the request module, we'll call the get method, and then we'll define the URL to be the endpoint, and then we'll define the parameters to equal our parameter dictionary. And just like that, we now have a response variable. And then I'm going to make sure to parse that response content. So we're going to call our beautiful soup object, and then we're going to do response.content. And then we're going to define the parser, which in this case, we know it's going to be HTML coming back. So we're going to set that equal to HTML parser. And then I just did a little printing out here just to let me know that it was kind of successful and that we got a URL and everything like that. And so, what happened? Oh, I misspelled it. That's why. Okay, and so we get this, and then this should be a valid URL, which it is. It takes me to this particular page, which now has all the information that I need to parse, basically. And so we're going to see in a couple minutes how to parse this table. But I do want to let you know that if you want to do a more broad search, so if you want to do a search where you're just looking for company name, for example, then I'm going to show you that all you got to do is you just take this parameter dictionary and we're just going to kind of get rid of a bunch of stuff. That's all we're going to do. So we're going to get rid of that. We're going to get rid of that. Actually, we'll keep that one up there just in case. And then I'll get rid of that one. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to change this to company. And then this will be, we'll have the one that I had before, so we'll just have it at Goldman Sachs. And that should be good. And then really, we can just leverage what we did right up here. We'll just put it like that. We'll do Control-Enter. And now we get a table that has all the companies that are named Goldman Sachs, which you can see there's quite a few. I think there's over 40. There's a lot. I mean, they probably have a lot of different entities and stuff like that that they have to do filings. And you have to keep in mind too, some of this is also like fund information, so there could potentially be a tremendous amount that would be related to this, because you can do searching for mutual funds and stuff like that. So keep in mind, you do certain companies are going to come back with a lot of information. But that's how you would do a company search. So it's almost identical to just a regular filing search. We just negated a bunch of the parameters, and then we added a new one, which was called company at this point. But again, the same information that was good to go. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to run this one again. So I want that to be my latest one. And then what we're going to do is we're going to parse this particular information. So we're going to parse it for the documents table. So we're going to create a new variable called document table. We're going to do a soup find all. We're going to look for the table object, and then I'm going to look for one that has a particular class attribute. So I'll do class underscore equals table, capital F, file 2. And if I go back here and I do my inspecting, and if I there we go. There we kind of go. So I'm looking for this object because this has all the individual rows that contain the information. So very useful for us. Okay, and so now that I have that, I'm going to do one final thing. So as we loop through this particular table, I want to store each row in a master list. So if you've seen the other videos that are related to SEC, this should look very familiar, the same kind of logic that we're approaching it. We've got a master list. That master list contains the parsed information that has each list within it being kind of like a row from that particular table. And then there is going to be some information where I believe I'm going to be creating some URLs, and unfortunately the href does not return the entire URL, it just returns a portion of it. So I need to basically concatenate the href component with the base URL. Okay, so now that we've done that, hopefully when we run this, we've got that doc table. What we're going to do is we're going to say for row in doc table, and then we'll do this first one in case they had more than one. There shouldn't be, but just I guess to be safe. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a find all. We're going to look for all the table row elements, and then we're going to loop through it. And so we're going to go here, and then what we're going to do is now that we're on each row, we're going to find all the columns. So we're going to say row find all, and then they're not really like a column tag, but they'll be a kind of like the TD element tag. So it's kind of like the individual cells. And so from here, we found all the columns. The first question we're going to ask is if it does not equal 0, so in other words, if there are columns, then actually go through and grab the text. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get the filing type. And the filing type is going to be the first element. So if I go back here, that's the filing type. So that should be the first column. And so we'll do 0.text.strip. And so we grab the text, we strip it for anything that's not really useful. And then we'll do this. And then we'll get some other information. So we'll get the filing date. We will get the filing number. And then we'll go back here. 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the date is in the third element. And then the number is in the fourth element. And then we'll grab the links. And so we'll call it filing. Ooh, got my cap locks on. Filing doc href equals columns 1 dot find the a tag. And then there's some information that kind of make this very specific. So if I actually go here, I'm going to look for the href that has this particular ID, so documents button. So this will take us to a document, so the actual document filing. And then the other one takes you to the interactive data page. And so this is where you can, I guess be a little bit more interactive. So you can select the tables that you want and all that kind of fun stuff. So just kind of easy way to get what you're looking for. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to say, what is it? href equals true. So that's the first parameter that has to be met. And then the second one is I want the ID to be documents button. Okay. I'm going to call this. Oh, I got a T there. I don't need that. And then we're going to change this to the interactive href. And then we're going to set this to the, I think that's the filings number. And so this one will be interactive data button. And then for this final one, this is 1, that's 1. And then this is going to be the fourth element. This one, it's actually really easy. We actually just need to find the a tag because there's no other a tag. And so you'll see here, this is just simply, these ones all have an a tag. Keep in mind, not all of these have an interactive data button. So we just need to keep that when we're going kind of to the next step. So now we're going to have to build in some if conditions, which means, okay, well, if you didn't find anything, then, kind of move on to the next thing. So the first thing I'm going to try to do is get the first href. And so we're going to say if the filing doc underscore href does not equal none. So in other words, if you found something, then we'll create a filing doc link, which will equal the base URL SEC plus the filing doc href, and then we're going to call the href key to get that actual value. And then what I'm going to say is else the filing doc link simply equals, I do want to kind of let people know there's nothing there, so I'm just going to say no link. I'm going to copy this a couple times and then again just change some kind of verbiage as we're doing it. So the second one is obviously, it's not the doc, it's going to be the interactive data one, so not the document link, but the interactive one. So I'm just changing the names of it. I'm going to change the number one, the number filing, number one, and then the number one. So not too bad, hopefully. From here, this should all look relatively familiar. I'm just simply creating a dictionary, and then I'm creating the key and then setting the key equal to the value that I'm parsing up here. So I don't really want to go through this part. I think most of you guys have seen me work with the dictionaries in this series. So hopefully when you're looking at this and when you're looking at the document itself, this should make a lot of sense. I'm just simply putting the information in the dictionary. And then here, I'm just printing it out so that way, you know, people can see it. I don't necessarily would want this in production or whatever, but at this point, this is just for me knowing, okay, it's working, everything's good. And then I'm appending to my master list, so the one that I initialized up here, I'm just appending the dictionary to it, that's all. So it worked, okay. I was really concerned it wasn't gonna work. Usually when I type a lot, it doesn't work. I usually do a typo or something like that. So as you can tell, it gets back some information. We get the filing type, the filing date, the filing number, and then each one of these is taking us to its respective information. So one is the document link, one is a filing number. So if I wanted to get all the documents that belong to a particular filing, we actually can make another request, and we just have to set a file number parameter, and then we get all the documents for that filing. So very useful. And then if it had an interactive data link, then we can take that link and it will take us to the interactive data. So hopefully this is kind of useful for people who, again, are trying to do some very specific searches. They don't want to necessarily have to go through the archives. They just kind of want to make their request and then kind of leave it as is. So this is kind of the way to do that. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to show you kind of some other information and other things that we can do with this information. And then we're going to see how to do the XML version. So all I'm doing right here is I'm just going to parse through the master list. So I just want like the first one. I'm just going to call each element a report, or each dictionary a report. And then I'm going to go into my master list, and then I'm just going to do the first, you know, 2 elements. That's all. Oh, sorry, forgot that. And then you can see, again, it's giving me the same exact information that I had up here, but this is just giving, you know, people some information of how I'm parsing my master list. I'm just going into my report, I'm calling my links, and then I'm getting my documents. That's really all I'm doing. Okay, so that's parsing the HTML version. There is an XML version of this. It's very useful. I personally, if I was doing this, I would probably do the XML version if I could, just because it's a little bit more structured, and with that structure, it makes the process of parsing it, I would have a little bit more confidence in the parsing, because things change with it, HTML and all that kind of fun stuff. Usually the XML stuff, it's pretty consistent. I don't really see it change that often. But what we're going to do is we're going to actually leverage some of the parameters that I defined up above, and we're just going to add and just change some stuff. That's all we're going to be doing. Again, I don't want to kind of have to retype all this stuff. I think from here you kind of got the point that, what I was doing. So I'm just going to copy this one again, and I'm going to put that right here. Everything is staying the same. I mean, everything's staying exactly the same. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to set my output parameter to Atom. So for whatever reason, Atom is, I guess, their RSS feed or something like that. I really haven't gotten a good answer on that, just because I'm trying to read through it and see kind of what other people are describing it. I know it's an RSS feed, so this is kind of a way where you could actually subscribe to like certain reports. where, if there's changes to it and they're releasing it, you kind of get this updated list sent to you. And so all this is doing is it's sending the same information that we're seeing here, and it's putting it in a more of an XML format. And so this will make a little bit more sense when we actually parse it. But before that, I'm going to copy this. And there is one thing that we have to change with the parsing mechanism. So instead of being HTML in this example, now we're going to go to LXMLs because we're going to get some XML back. And so where is it? So let me show you what this would look like. So if I click the RSS feed right over here, it takes me to something like this. So this is now the same information, but now in an XML content structure. And so what you'll notice is that we have this kind of outer tag called feed, which basically encompasses all the information. We have this author tag, which has information about the author, nothing really useful that we can gain insight from. We get some company info, so we get things like the address, we get things like the SIC, the description, the href to that particular SIC, assistant director, CIK number, CIK href, the name, the fiscal year, what is it? The state location href, and just things along that information. And it's even kind of nice too because they're even showing you how to make those requests in a sense. So you could actually add a state parameter. You could actually add, I think this one was, is that just the same one? I think that's just the same one. I think this one's just doing the CIK number, and then this one's doing the SIC number, things along that nature. So this is very useful if you wanted to make other requests that are kind of more specific, or if you wanted just like certain state ones or things along that nature. All that information would kind of live in this company info. And then the part that we're really concerned with is what we call the entry tags, because the entry tags contains each entry that we're seeing. I'm just going to open up here, but we're seeing basically each entry in this table. And so we'll see here that we get an ascension number, we get a file number href, filing date, filing href, filing type, file number. I don't know why it's called film number. I don't know if that was a typo, if they were serious. And then form name, a size, XBRL, href. Just a lot of good information where you can kind of go to that next step and get the information that you want. We've got the link. This one, I believe, is an alternate. So this is basically taking you to the HTML version, if I remember correctly. And then the summary type, this is just kind of like a summary of what it is. We get the title. And then if you actually go to the bottom, you won't see it on this one, but you'll even get additional links. So you can get to an alternate one that's an HTML output of the same information. You can go one that is the one that you're currently at. So this one's kind of the XML version. And then if you were to go here, so like this one's a little bit more useful in that sense, but if you go to the bottom, is that not it? Oh, that's weird. Let me see if this one has it. Okay, maybe this is the one. No, that's not it. Well, that's kind of not useful then. But it's okay. I guess it'll be fine. I think I have it here. Yeah. Yeah, here it is. So this is one that has a ton of output. If you go down to the bottom where you find the little section with the links, you'll see the HTML one, you'll see the one that you're currently on, but you'll see this one too. This will take you to the next however many entries that you've defined. So if you've set this as to 100, it will take you to the next 100 if there are 100. This one only takes me to the next 40 because I think after this you only get like 40 or 70 back. But we'll see how we can leverage this particular link for a pagination if we wanted to, so going to the next page. Okay, so with that being said, let's see how we can parse the XML version of this. So we would make our request up here, and then I put a little information here of what the content looks like and how I'm finding everything. hopefully this makes sense. Again, I put it in the beautiful soup ones before, so if you've seen that video, this will look very familiar. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to find all the entry tags. And so I'm going to create a new variable called entries. This will be soup.findAll. And now I'm going to find all the entry tags. I'm going to initialize a new list, which will be called master list XML. This will equal an empty list at this point. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say for entry in entries. And at this point, let's just do maybe the first, like, I don't know, 2 or something like that. We don't have to do all of them. But if there was a lot back, this is how we would kind of do it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab certain information. So the first one is the access kind of number. And so this one is, we can do access done. And so we'll say entry.find. And then this one has a particular tag. It's called ACCESION number. And then I want the text. And then from here, I'm just going to walk through kind of what I'm doing. Again, I'm creating a new dictionary where it's going to have each one of these numbers, and the key will be the number, and that key will be another dictionary. And then I'm finding the category information. So this is things where I get like the label, the scheme, the term. I'm going to find the file info. So I'll get things like the number, the href, the form name, the size. And then there's some extra info. So like this, I call it the request info, like the link, the title, when it was last updated. And then from here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to store all of this in the master list. So I'm going to say master list XML, we'll call it append, and then we'll do entry dictionary. And so all I'm doing, I'm just looping through, I'm creating a key. That key is going to lead to another dictionary, and then there's some dictionaries within that. So the category key will have this information, the file info key will have this information, and then the request info key will have this information. And if you really want to know what that information is, you can always look at the content itself. This one's just the number. This is the file number. So this will take you to the filing number if I remember correctly. And then this is the filing date, the filing href, the filing type, the film number. I think that's misspelled correctly. I can't be sure. The name, there's ID information if you need that. There's a link to this particular one. The title's right here. And then we get some updated info. So again, hopefully this makes sense. Watching the other videos, this should look relatively familiar. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll run this. Oh, probably makes sense to have a column there. It should be working. Oh, did I not spell it correctly? There's a possibility I didn't do that. Oh, I misspelled it. That feels like another typo, I would imagine, but maybe I'm just crazy. Okay, so that worked. I guess it's called that. That's kind of concerning because that to me doesn't make sense, but okay. Anywho, so if you go here and you click this one, so this is the file number href. So this will take you to the filing number, just like right over here. And then this one will take you to that particular filing HURL. So, and then we've seen in the other videos, technically you can change all this and get like a JSON structure back or something like that. And then we've seen how to parse the actual HTML content. So you can kind of see how hopefully it's all coming together. But it's nice to where we can kind of jump to one location wherever we're at. We just kind of have to know what is being sent back to us and kind of what we're looking at. And then once we've done that, we're really in a good spot. Okay, so just one kind of final thing. We're going to talk about parsing the next page. all I'm doing down here is I'm just kind of showing you how to access this master list XML, this list object. So this is going to the first entry. I'm passing through that key, and then I'm getting the category. And then, you can get things like the file info, the request info, but this is just for you to kind of see how I'm parsing that list once I've created it. Okay, so now that we're here, we're going to see how we can parse the next page. This is going to be pretty much identical. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy, again, some of the information that I have up here. And then we're just going to add some little pieces of information, that's all. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to get my soup object and my response object. Okay. So we do that same exact step that we're doing here, but now I'm going to find a different tag. So I'm going to create a new variable. It's called links. I'm going to do soup.find all. I'm going to do, what is it? Link. So I'm finding the link tag. And then this does have a particular value for one of the attributes. So the rel attribute, I'm going to set that equal to next. And then all this is going to do, hopefully something gets sent back to us. If it doesn't, that's fine. We're going to capture that here. And so we'll say while soup.find all, and then really kind of all I'm doing. I mean, technically, I don't have to have this right up here if I'm putting it right here, but I'll just add that in the documentation. We'll put our list. And then, so basically what I'm saying here is keep going if you find a next page link. So as long as it doesn't equal an empty list, keep going to that next link. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab the link. So I'm going to say next page link equals links 0. What is it? And then href. And then we'll request that next page. So I'm just going to grab that. I'm just going to put it right here. And then I'm going to set this equal to next page link. And then I'm just going to see if there is a next link. Okay. So keep going while there's a next page link. If there is a next page link, get the href, print it out for the user so they know it's there, make a new request, and then try to find the link. Again, this will keep going as long as there's a next page link. So if I run it, is this not the one that I was thinking is working? I think that should be working. Oh, that's why. I had the parameters in there. That doesn't help. No, that's still not working. Response.content. XML. Soup.find all. Relative next. Let me do this. Print response.url. Oh, this isn't the right one. Oh, yeah. Hold on. Okay, sorry. I put the wrong URL in there. What did I exclude from this one? Oh, I know what I'm doing. Okay, sorry. That was my bad. I should have checked that before I did it. I have to remove the 10K one because otherwise if I do the 10K one, if I remember correctly, there's not enough that would take us to a next page. So if I exclude the 10K one, then we should be good to go. Okay, so this one worked in this example because I removed that 10K parameter up here. because if I just had done the 10K one, it only returned those particular filings, and there's not over 100 of them. But this one would take me to the next one, and so we'll see the start parameter is now to 100, and if we go to the bottom, we'll see a new one here at the bottom, but unfortunately that's going back to the previous page. So this is going back to the first 100. So this is kind of the issue with it if you want to think about it. But this is, again, if you had over 100 or something like that. Usually if you set this equal, the count parameter to 100, usually you're good to go. I mean, a lot of them are not going to be having that many filings on hand. So with that being said, though, that was actually the final example, be it seemed to break at a certain point, but that's okay. That was my bad. So if you have any questions about this particular topic within the EDGAR searching, please put them down in the comments below. I'll try to answer them as best I can, especially with the lack of documentation. Sometimes makes it a little bit challenging. Also, if you could make sure to like the video, we always appreciate the support. Seems like people have been liking this video, so that's been very encouraging. I think hopefully this will make a lot of people's jobs much easier. That's kind of the goal. And then also, if you're not already, please make sure to subscribe to the channel so that way you get regular updates as we release new videos. So we're going to be releasing kind of new content soon. The next upcoming one would be, I believe, multiple linear regression analysis. So I have been working on that one. It's been fun. It's been long. It's a lot of writing and a lot of double checking, unfortunately. But I think it'll be a useful, a useful topic for a lot of people. So definitely excited to share that one. So thanks again for watching, everybody. We will see you in the next video.